Okay, so good evening, everyone. Before we start, I just wanted to do a quick check. So if you can hear me, just type in the chat box a yes or just give an acknowledgement so that we know we are good to go. Okay, we've got a confirmation from a few people. So great. I think just a couple of checks before we start. So one is that this session, we are going to be keeping all the audience members in mute. So if you have any questions, which we will be addressing at the end of the session, I would request you to type in the chat box, and I will be the one who will be asking the questions on behalf of all of you to Mr. Alok. Okay, so great. So I'm going to let's kickstart the session. Firstly, thank you all for being here today. This is the second session of the Leading in the Times of Crisis webinar series. This is, as you all know, hosted by NeoNiche, and the intention of doing this series is of getting the best business leaders to share their insights, their experiences, and how they are implementing strategies in these trying times. Today, our session is titled as Harness the Difference That Makes a Difference. So what is the difference that we're really talking about out here? It is actually the people and the organizations and the culture of the organization that actually will make the difference. So, fortunately, we know that in the coming months, the fate of the companies will be decided with the culture that they are implementing, and then they are innovating, and then they're strategizing. To actually share insights on this topic further, we are happy and honored to have with us today one of the best minds in the industry, Mr. Alok Ranjan. He is the CEO of Flip Carbon, a business consulting organization which focuses on working with companies across sectors and at various growth stages to provide business solutions. He has previously worked in leadership roles for a host of blue chip companies like Shaw Wallace, Sab Miller, and AB InBev. He's known as a strategic leader, having more than 2 decades of professional experience in building efficient teams for organizations. I would say he's someone who brings the great balance between strategy and execution. So we would like to welcome Mr. Alok, and I'm going to request him to please take over and start the session.
Thank you, Shivani. Thank you for all your kind words. In fact, when you initiated the conversation, it took a while for me to acknowledge that you were actually talking about me. I have never been introduced like in such a grand manner before. So thanks for pampering me. Thank you so much. Thank you, Prateek. Thank you, NeoNiche team, for having me here on this forum. And I take this opportunity to welcome you all. Hello, everyone. Trust you and family are well, and life is treating you good despite of COVID-19. I appreciate you all investing your time on this platform this afternoon. And now it is putting onus on me that I do justice with your time. In the next hour or so, which you will be spending on this platform, our endeavor would be that we have some great exchange of ideas, something which I share with you all, something which I learned from you, so that at the end of the conversation, when we leave this room, we all are enriched to a certain extent. First thing first, before I start the conversation, I am as much an entrepreneur and a business owner, the way most of you would be. I am as much a team leader as many of you would be. And most importantly, I am also an individual, as all of you are. So like most of you, this is a challenging time. And I'm also spending time relooking at our business plan, contingency measures, how are we managing these situations, our business continuity measures to ensure that we are robust enough to sail through during this period. So for this conversation today, I have tried channelizing my thought from 3 dimensions. One from the business perspective, second from the team leader perspective, and one from as an individual perspective. So the conversation which we will be having today would be about how do you deal in such a scenario from 3-dimension perspective? Uh, just to check, are you guys able to see my screen? Probably an acknowledgement will help me here.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Great. So as Shivani has very rightly introduced the theme, the topic for the conversation today, it's all about uh, how do we treat the people? How do we ensure that they are working in an environment and in a culture which allows them to give their best? Whatever the business we are doing, whatever the business you are in, irrespective of the industry, irrespective of the size of the business which you are managing, the people who are working with you are the real advantage for you. Uh, whether you are a manufacturing organization or you are a service provider, doesn't make any difference. The kind of plant and machinery which you have, your competition can go and build a similar plant tomorrow. The kind of service offering which you provide in the market can be copied next day. But what they can't copy is the culture which you have in your organization, the team which you have in your organization, and most importantly, the manner in which you lead and provide direction to your team in your organization. So this evening, we will be spending some time to understand how can we work in this dimension, how can we harness the difference that makes all the difference. Right. This is pretty unprecedented time. Unthinkable has happened. We are going through a phase in our life which we have never imagined before. In fact, this is such a scenario where the entire world has been put on hold. Situation is changing every day. We are always discussing and thinking about what will happen next. Life has never been as uncertain as it is today. What is going to happen next moment? What is going to happen next day? What is going to happen next month? And what is going to happen next quarter is a question which is coming to all of our mind. And when unthinkable happens, all of us, we all human beings do take time to accept this. We follow the curve, what you call as the curve of change, which starts first with denial. Oh, it has happened in China. It will not come to India. Then comes the blame, externalizing the issue, not owning it up. The government should have done this. This organization should have done this, that. Probably the our leadership team of the organization would have managed in this manner, not owning it up, trying to put the blame on other. And in midst of every situations, difficult situations like this, confusion does creep in. A lot of news, a lot of messages, what is being exchanged on the WhatsApp media and various other social media platform actually helps us creating more and more confusion. Let summer be here, that this virus will not be able to survive the heat of India. One temperature will increase. Once the temperature will increase, virus will vanish, and so on and so forth. So that's the normal cycle of denial, blame, and confusion, which all of us we have gone through. Things which is happening today will definitely have a mark on in each of our life. Now it is up to us whether we make this to our advantage or we allow this to impact us adversely. Only one thing which will make us sail through this tiring time is our ability to deal with such ambiguity. If you deal with such situation in an effective manner, today you will have a brighter tomorrow. Tomorrow, when the shutter will open, you will be better prepared. So use this time to prepare yourself for a better tomorrow. Genetically, we all are programmed in such a manner that whenever any kind of unexpected situation happens, unthinkable moment happens, we try to resist that change. We take time to accept this. And this is what we call as an ostrich effect, tendency to avoid that negative news, negative information. This is a scenario where there is a conflict which happens between our emotional mind and the rational mind. Rational mind tells us what can happen tomorrow, but emotional mind simply tries to deny the existence of the negativity around us. And this is where the phenomena of ostrich moment comes in. By hiding yourself, by burying your head, doesn't help you. You need to stand up and face the situation. As someone has rightly said, that life begins at the end of your comfort zone. We all know, the harbor is the safest place for the ship, but you don't make ship to keep it in the harbor. You need to take ship out in the sea. You need to go out, explore the world, and this is why you make the sea. And so is a human being. We have not come to this world to remain confined to a place of comfort so that we don't get an opportunity to explore what is happening outside. And that's where, when we come out of our comfort zone, what is that we encounter is what we call an uncertain moment, uncertain period. And this is where we face adverse situation. And as this is the moment where, instead of demonstrating the ostrich syndrome, one need to stand up, take charge, take control, and start bringing the things into their advantage. Uh, Effective leaders are the one who take this moment to effectively lead their team, provide them the direction, and more importantly, ensure that they develop a right kind of environment where the talent can excel in their organization. When you are in an uncertain moment, watch out that you shouldn't fall into what I call as the Kodak moment. Kodak was the first one who developed the digital camera prototype long back in 1970, but they took good 21 years to bring it to the market. 1991 was the year when finally they got the a digital camera into the market. By the time, it was so very late, and the rest is the history. Speed is the key when you are in adverse situation. You may have a great idea, but if you will delay it, somebody else will own it, and somebody else will be the first one to take it to the market. So the first and foremost requirement to face the adverse situation is be fast. If you have got something, move with it. Don't wait for 100% perfection. And a couple of slides down, we will also spend a little more detail and deeper. We'll go deeper into it. The second piece which I want to talk about is about continuous experimentation. The Wrigley, the chewing gum, what we all enjoy chewing today, they actually launched this chewing gum to entice their consumers. We were buying soap with them. And this product which they have launched has changed the history of the organization. We need to continuously look for something which can bring our organization a longer life. We need to continue experimenting with something which provide the competitive advantage and the edge over others in this kind of tiring time. And this can only be done if we are having a right kind of people in our organization, and we have a right kind of culture and right kind of environment in our organization. Think back. Do you think that Amazon has actually cannibalized their business by creating Kindle and Marketplace? Maybe not. Actually, by doing that, they ensure that this, what I call as a disruptive development, they remain relevant in the market. And these are some of the examples which say that when the adversity is being faced, how the organizations are able to respond and react to it. It all happens in the mind first. If you can think, you can achieve. And the process of thinking to achievement, how does it happen? I'm going to share a very, very simple tool around that. How can you convert a panic into a performance situation? By turning the corner. It all starts from thinking. What is that you think has a great impact on your performance? It purely depends at this point of time whether you are thinking hopeless end or an endless hope. Big difference. You decide what is that you want to have. Once your thought process starts happening, align that with the complete cycle of thinking to feeling, feeling to acting. And if you are able to do that, you will be able to achieve a great performance. Thinking, not acting, doesn't give you any result. Thinking, not feeling, directly jumping to acting, you don't create that passion. And then the activity just become a task. Performance is not sustainable. Sustainable performance are those where The complete chain of thinking to feeling, feeling to acting translates into a performance zone. And the effective and the smart leaders are the one who are able to connect these three dots from thinking to feeling, feeling to acting. And once you start acting with the thinking and feeling mode, no one can beat you. You achieve unachievables. To nurture this working behavior, what you need in your organization is a robust culture. What is culture? Many things have been talked about it. This is a word which we use it day in and day out in our day-to-day working. Simply put, it is a shared way of doing things with passion. All the person in the organizations, if they are delivering their task, they are executing their responsibility, they are doing the value add in a shared way. That's the culture of the organization. It's the shared belief. You hear some stories about organizations from here and there, and basis which you create an opinion about the culture. And that's the important element about the culture. Many a scenario where you as a leadership uh, will have a different interpretation and impression about your culture, but world, both internally as well as externally, can have a different view about it. Align your actions with the culture which you want in your organization. Delivered can't go wrong. Here is a classic case where people are discussing all in one room, having a doubt about their culture. Unless or until you start creating a shared passion, shared way of doing things, you cannot create a culture. You need to align your culture with the artifacts and the behavior of the organization. Here is the organization which talks about that we have an open culture, but you walk in there, what do you see? Closed cabin. You cannot go to see the manager without taking appointment from the executive assistant. Executive assistant will be sitting with the door locked. What kind of the open culture we have? We have an organization that talk about we are a customer centric organization, and you are trying to call, no one is picking the phone. You are lucky if someone has picked the phone and you want to talk to individual person, phone is taking 20 rings and then remain unanswered. Artifacts are not aligned to the culture. So here is the moment and opportunity for the uh, organizations to align themselves with what is happening around us. Leaders need to play a very, very important role to ensure that organization's culture is in sync with the changes which is happening outside. Please remember, this is such a big impact in everyone's life. This will leave a mark, and we need to understand and predict what is going to happen in future, and we need to align our organizational culture what is happening around us. Better to do it now, better to do it today. Some of the elements which I thought we'll take this as a conversation point today. One of the piece which has been widely talked and discussed about it in the recent past is the remote working. Yes, this is a reality. Your culture has to align and accept the remote working scenario. Suddenly, the entire world has moved from office working to remote working scenario. How are you preparing for it? How are you gearing up for it? If you actually look into the history, work from home is not a new phenomenon. So 1979 is when IBM first experimented by allowing 5 people to work from home. And by 1983, there were about 2,000 people from IBM who have started working remotely. 1979 was also a year where Washington Post actually published a big article talking about work from home can help us save gasoline. So this is not something which we are hearing it for the first time. This was there in existence for some time. 1983, when the internet was born, it has further added support to the work from home phenomena. 1991, with the birth of Wi-Fi, the remote working has gone to the next level. In fact, the place where I'm sitting and I just raise my head, I see the office of JCPenney in Bangalore. By mid-80s, JCPenney, they allowed their call center employees to work from home. This is nothing new, right? What COVID has done, it has created a tipping point in the remote working. Some of the data which I am sharing with you here is from a survey which was conducted just before the COVID outbreak, where the 64% of today's professionals, they were comfortable working from anywhere. And very interestingly, a survey by Global Workforce suggests that 37% of remote working employees, they were able to continue working even with a pay cut. People feel that they are more productive when they have a working from home because they feel lesser distracted. They save time in their travel, and it also allows them to minimize their exposure or involvement in office politics. So that's a big reality which is knocking at our door. Just about everyone wants to work from home is what I have said. Create the infrastructure to support this. What has happened in more so in the context of India here, suddenly the people have moved from office to the work without having the right kind of infrastructure support. Many of our colleagues working from there doesn't have the right kind of net connectivity. They don't have right kind of tools to work from there. And mind you, India will live in a small house with a large family. You really struggle to find that a little quiet corner where you can sit and work. Organization's culture has to start acknowledging it. Organization culture has to start appreciating the challenges which people are facing when they are working from home. And how organization can help them support is a very, very important element here. Please remember, when you have a remote working scenario, the team is no longer working together. You don't have the water cooler break. You don't have the lunch gossip. How do you keep the emotional connect alive in this scenario of remote working is very important element to keep in the consideration. So the next piece which I want to talk about is the digital touch. Very important that organization has to create a culture of digital touch. There are many organizations who are leveraging it quite well. The available tools which are there in the market, and there are many, they are not only ensuring that the team is connected during this period of social distancing, but they are using this platform to conduct their daily check-in, check-outs, business planning meeting, business review meeting with a far better attendance than what it used to happen in the past. I know many of my clients with whom we work, they have got back to us saying that they have been able to reach out to the customer far more frequently during this period with the help of the digital platform. And that's the reality. That's the reality. There are organizations who are actually leveraging this digital platform to enhance the connect with the employees by virtue of conducting various activities, jamming session, health fitness challenge, music session, happy hours, antrakshri, many things. All is being made possible because organizations are now leveraging this digital touch. Even at the personal level, many of us during this period have attended various Zoom calls, hangouts to connect with our old friends from school days, college days, colleagues from the previous organization, which probably for many of us, we were not in touch with each other for last so many years. So that's the phenomena which is happening outside the world. This digital technology is actually helping us enhance the human touch. And I believe that both will coexist. And hence it is important that your organizational culture is acknowledging this element. The importance of technology to ensure that people are connected. Once the shutter will open, the situation could be very different from what it was there. Many of the things which were accepted as a normal will be challenged tomorrow. And it is important that we organize our work as per design. There will be a shift in the contractual obligation. Attendance and hours at work will probably give way to output metrics. People will start measuring more onto the contributions and the value which is being added. The manager's role will change. The interesting thing about manager is the role of manager actually came out when we had the industrial revolution happening, and when suddenly the large group of people started coming together and working under one roof, and you needed somebody who will help, who will manage them. What is happening today when there is a remote working happening? You are not managing your team minute by minute, hour by hour. Any which way, it was not a healthy sign. You have hired an adult. You have hired a person whom you have found competent for the role. Now, if you have hired a person competent for the role, why do you need to manage their activities? Shift your focus from managing the activities to managing the output. And this is something where the manager's role will undergo also a big change. What is also happening in this period is very, very important to understand. A lot of people's job is getting impacted. In fact, ever since the COVID-19 outbreak in US, about 17 million people have gone and approached the government for jobless aid. The international level organization, ILO, has forecasted a far bigger and far richer impact on the workforce during this period. The unemployment rate, even in India, is at all-time high. All this will give rise to a gig workforce. You have a job, you need a skill set. This skill set will be available there in the market. Instead of having a full-time employment, you can engage with them on the output-based engagement, value addition-based engagement. This will give you higher productivity at a lower cost. Why at a lower cost? Because if you need them for 2 months, 3 months, or 4 months, you engage them for those smaller period rather than hiring them for the full 12 months of time cycle. Reach out to these kind of skill set which will be available in the market. Tomorrow, when you will open your shutter, you will also have a big pressure to manage your cost, like the way I'm having and many other like us are having. This could be a very smart way to reach out to the right kind of skill set, which otherwise would not have been made possible, and at a much lower cost. What it will do, it will help us, increase the speed of execution. Speed is going to play a big role. And this is where the fourth culture alignment, which I am going to talk about it, is adopt the acceleration. If you don't want the Kodak moment in your life, if you want to be relevant in your industry where you are playing, if you want to be relevant in today's world, you need to adopt the acceleration. And at 3 levels: yourself, your team, and your company. Don't become the bottleneck of the process. If you go back and look into the history of Kodak, there were few people who actually became the bottleneck because they wanted research after research, thesis after thesis, before deciding whether to go out in the market with such a wonderful product or not. And look what, they took 21 years and they are not relevant now. Adopt the acceleration both at your level, team level, organization level. Speed is going to be the essence here. The agility with which you will respond and react to the requirement will decide what will be your future tomorrow. I personally believe that this adoption of acceleration in your culture element will be the differentiator. There are many various conversations which is happening all around the world that this recession will have V curve, U curve, W curve, L curve, various curve. If you are adopting the acceleration, you will have a faster recovery curve, irrespective of what is happening at the outside. Formulate your objective, create a concrete plan. Plan what will you do in this quarter, what will you do in this year, and what will you do in the long term. Divide it nicely. It is good to prepare for tomorrow, but you also need to pass through this difficult time. And you cannot be sitting idle. Wait and watch will not work. It's like, I remember someone saying about it. It's like trying to compete against your breathing. You want to check, if I stop breathing, what will happen? If you win, you will die. So this is the moment to act. Take responsibility of your decision and start turning the table. Take this moment to continuously learn new things. World is changing. The skill set which was relevant yesterday may not be relevant tomorrow, or the skill set which will require tomorrow can be easily available in this gig economy at a much lower cost, at a much higher skill set. That's very, very important. Make continuous learning hardwire in your system. For all the leaders on the call here, mind it, people are looking at you. Lead it from front and lead efficiently. That's the 4 culture alignment piece which I'm talking about it here. Prepare your organization to accept the reality of remote working. Understand that technology has far more a bigger role and deeper role to play. The work design will change. Use it for your advantage and adopt the acceleration. And this is where the leadership has to play a very, very important role. Whatever the culture you create in the organization, remember the Dilbert? The people, the organization, they experience the culture through their leaders. Individual conversation. If required, flex your style. If you have never done it before, do it now. Reach out to your team, talk to them. Nowadays, a lot of people are staying alone, working away from their home. And in this moment, they don't have anybody to talk to. Be that person to listen to your team member, talk to them, engage them, and provide them the direction. Take this moment to recognize the contribution and success. Feeling recognized and appreciated is very important and bizarre. And the recognition can be various things. Don't forget to acknowledge work anniversary which has fallen into this period. Whatever big or small, you must celebrate that as a big. I know we can't go out. Create a small team meeting. Get everybody here. Acknowledge the person in presence of the team. It will have a far bigger and better impact than what we are visualizing here. Symbolic act, very important. Our intended and both unintended part, very, very challenging. You need to align your act to connect with the people. People need to know that company and the leader, they are thinking about them at this time. And more importantly, how much the company and how much the leader are valuing the contribution which is being made by the team. Last but not the least here, I'm saying ensure the continuity in the management routine. Elevate the impact of routine. And this is where I want to share power of 69. What is 69 here? 69 are the touch time which the manager or a leader has with their team member in the year. You have 52 weekly meetings. You have 12 monthly reviews. You have 4 quarterly conversation. And of course, 1 annual conversation, 52 plus 12 plus 4 plus 1, 69. Unleash the power of 69 to reach out to people, to connect with them, to make them feel special during this period. Couple of these practical tips, if we as a leader do during this period, we will elevate the morale of the team. We will build a culture what we want to build, and that will give us the advantage in the days to come. Let's make a difference. It's all up to us. Unthinkable will happen. It has happened in the past. It has happened now. Again, it will happen tomorrow. Get a high out of it. Prepare yourself so that you are able to, what is the term somebody has used it very nicely called anti-fragile. Anti-fragile are the one who actually thrives in the adversity. You cannot have that anti-fragile approach every time in your life, but here is the moment to get high out of it. Take charge and take control of it. Start thinking, feeling, acting like a performer. You will convert the moment of panic to a performance. And the good thing about the culture, whether you manage or not, you have one. You have people working with you, people outside your workplace. They have an interpretation and view about your culture. So manage it well. Align that with the challenges and the reality which is happening outside the world. Be decisive. Leader need to be decisive at this point of time. Own your decision. Create a culture where people can flourish. They can do the experimentation. Lead with compassion. Here is the time when people are only getting to hear bad news. Demonstrate your compassion, and you should act in such a manner that you must attract trust from your stakeholder, your team, your client, the people with whom you are interacting with. And this is how you can make the difference. Before I end, this is not my quote, but I think this is very, very appropriate here. To win in the marketplace, it is very, very important that you first win in the workplace. And with this, I take a pause here. Stay healthy, stay safe. More than happy to take questions, address any thoughts, and at the same time learn from you all what you have to share as some of your comments and some of your views here. Shivani, over to you.
Yes, great. Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Alok, for sharing your insights. So we have a few questions. I'm going to start right in. The first one is that how can a company operate with 25% or greater absenteeism?
Absolutely. Do more with less. This is a reality. Why 25%? There are organizations where the absenteeism could be far higher. There are, I don't know, tomorrow the scenario can be there tomorrow where the government can come out with a norms to have a restrictive attendance at the workplace. Here is the moment where you have to go back to the old concept of what is critical and what is non-critical in your items. You must know what are the things which is required to be done at this point of time. The entire value chain has been impacted. Instead of trying to do the work the manner in which we were doing in the past, prioritize them, and then accordingly depute and align your team members to deliver those pays. Today is the moment where the organization also has to start practicing what you call as a boundaryless behavior, irrespective of whatever the functions you are in, irrespective of whatever the roles you are in. Here is the moment where people have to come out from the silos and the boundaries of their own respective functions and start supporting each other. So if you have a 25% this attendance, understood, what do you do in this moment? You look for the skill set which is available in the balance 75% of the people. Create a team which is required to be deputed for the critical roles and ensure that your critical functions and critical activities are being completed in this period. You will have to go a little outside the silos of the department and the function, and you will have to start looking for the skill set which will help you in this period. You remember I also talked about the gig workforce. Think about it, the work which can be done from remote location. Explore the people who are also available, who will be more than happy and willing to take work and provide their expertise during this period at a very, very different cost than what you were paying till yesterday. So this is the way where we have to start dissecting the problem in a small little pieces and start addressing them step by step, pieces by pieces. But very relevant question. This is the reality in a lot of organization today.
The next question is, how will working from home play an impact on HR interventions?
Yes. In fact, for the last 1 month, if you look into the organization, it is the HR folks who have been pretty busy, because in a lot of organizations, this is the time when you start setting up the goals and aspiration for the next year. This is the time when the last year's appraisal gets completed. This is the time where a lot of cyclic process of the HR piece which happens. While you are doing that, you also need to understand your workforce is no longer the pair of hand who used to come at your workplace. This pair of hand now is actually working as a part of the family at a remote location. The HR needs to, in this time, has to start showing the compassion. If I'm having this conversation and if you find my little one standing here, don't get surprised, because that's the reality now. If you are having a conversation with your team, listening to a whistle sound coming from behind is a reality from team. HR need to start creating the culture sensitivity in the organizations around it. HR need to ensure that the managers are equipped to manage their team while the team is not working with them. The managers will have a struggle to work uh, at a remote location than from their team. Build that sensitivity, create that appreciation, ensure that the infrastructure support which is required. I know you can't do it now, but suppose if the lockdown in some pockets opens tomorrow and another one happens a couple of months down the line. I'm not predicting anything here, but those are the scenarios which can emerge. Start partnering with the business. Engage with the leadership team in a continuous manner. This is the time where the engagement has to be taken to a different dimension. And in the some of the elements which I talked about it, all the 4 elements about the culture, the leader cannot make this culture alone in the organization. Mind you, the HR custodian, the HR leader of that organization has to play a very important role, sitting with their leader to ensure that organization is able to align themselves to the new culture. Work from home, you know what? The work from home, the reality is pretty different. The large organization, they are geared up for the work from home. The micro organization, actually, they were working from home only. The organization with 1 or 2 team members, they didn't have the office. It is the impact which is coming in the middle band. And this is where the leaders will be feeling pretty isolated. My HR colleagues, please stand up, go to the leader, help them manage this transition in a successful manner. Whatever the contribution you will make today will be remembered in your organization forever.
Okay. Sorry.
Yes, Ivani.
Yeah, okay. So the next question, like it's actually 2 people who've asked the question, but I'm going to club it together. So the one question is that how do you specifically deal with an employee having a full-blown mental breakdown during work from home? And this has happened in spite of all the support possible. And the second question is that how do we ease anxiety in these times while especially for all the employees? So I felt that both of them were connected from mental health point of view.
Very important, and I really appreciate this kind of real questions and real issues being brought into this conversation here. It's not a theoretical conversation, and it's not a theory which we are talking about it. This is a real life issue and real life challenge which we are talking about it. And it is very important that we need to take care of our employees' emotional well-being as well during this period. The 4 elements which I talked about in my conversation, one of that was impactful conversation, giving time to the employees for the individual conversation. And if it required manager to change their working style, so be it. There are a lot of anxiety which will be happening with the people there, because one side there are anxiety about the economic condition, the other side there could be anxiety about the family reality. Suddenly in some of the housing society you hear that, oh my god, my housing complex has been sealed because there has been a positive case found in the other apartment in the same complex. One undergoes a emotional low there. There are moments when organizations need to understand and appreciate that employees' perspective could be coming from what is happening in their world outside there. Uh, I find this statement little restrictive. That in spite of doing everything, uh, don't restrict your boundary there. Explore till the time you have not found the solution, till the time you have not found the real reason why that emotional outburst has happened. It is not fair to say that I have done everything, because at the end of the day, I'm sure you are not hiring a child labor in your team. You are hiring an adult, and adult are also expected to behave in a certain manner. What you have observed is extraordinary behavior. So there must be some extraordinary situations which might have happened there. There are a lot of counseling helplines which are available. If required, provide them the access to these people. In fact, the other day I was talking to a group of people, and they were the group of counselor, and they were saying that suddenly over the last 1 month or so, they have been getting humongous amount of calls into their setup, and many of these calls are coming because of the domestic abuse and so on and so forth. The situations which we are facing today now, we have never faced before. So the manner in which we are also reacting now, probably we don't know, and many of us don't have the control on the way we are reacting and responding to it. So show your compassion. Try finding the reason. Till the time you are not finding the reason, don't stop. Continue having the conversation. If it required individual conversation, do that. And the 69 touch point which I have talked about it, what does it do? It ensures that you don't have any surprise element here. If you are doing a weekly check-in, increase the frequency if they're required to the daily check-in. Nothing wrong in it, because today your employees need you more than what it was in the past. And that's how I like to provocate my colleagues who have put this question, that don't stop there. Try finding the real reason, and try providing them the support. If you are not equipped, don't mind. There are various helplines which are available. Seek their help. This is a professional expertise, and many of us may not have that. And don't shy away from seeking those help. That's how I will like to take this further.
Okay. Okay. The next questions, again, there are a couple of them, but I would kind of club them together in terms of productivity. So one
Sure.
question is around how that, in these trying times, how can we keep the productivity level high of employees? One of the other participants has also mentioned that, a lot of people have been experiencing salary cuts. So again, that kind of, puts the morale down. So how do you still keep the productivity high? And then there are there's a third question where they're saying that some team members are really doing, a lot of hard work. They're putting long hours, and there's some people who are just not putting in the hours. So again, how do we deal with such a situation? So in all three cases, I felt that it was relating to productivity.
Yeah, no, and in fact, quite a detailed question this is, and I like to break it into pieces to address it in a right manner. So the point which you are talking about, productivity, the question of productivity comes in if your organization is getting work. If your organization is not getting work, what do? That's the one dimension. Second is if your organization is getting work and you have something to gainfully engage with your team, and then the team is not working. And then the third scenario which you mapped is yes, the organization is getting work, but few of the team members are involving themselves, and few of them are not. So that's the three dimension to the problem which you have just discussed about it. Let's bite it step by step. First piece: if your organization is not having work, what do you expect your team to do? Have you shared with them your expectations? Have you shared with them what do you expect them to engage during this period? There are many. I mean, I'm just sharing some of the thought starter which I have seen organizations doing it in this period of time. If you don't, if your supply chain is choked, if you are running a retail stores and your stores shutter is down, what will you do? How will you measure the productivity? In this scenario, there are a couple of ways by which you can ensure that people are gainfully engaged and their contributions are valued even during this period. Here is the moment to go back, look into your process, look into your systems. In fact, the other day I was talking to one of the leading airlines, their CFO, and what he was telling me that over the last 45 days, he has taken this as an opportunity to revamp all the process and SOPs in his organization. And he has created a small little team who have taken one aspect of their SOPs, and they have reviewed and aligned that with the current changes which is happening in the external environment. Once that is ready, the same SOP manual and SOP deck is being used to provide training to the people who are there in the organization. Use this time to build the capability. Encourage your team members to learn and acquire new skill, so that when tomorrow the shutter will open, they are better prepared to bounce back and be ready for it. That's first scenario. Second scenario, when you are getting work, there is certain expectations which the employees are supposed to do. How do you ensure the productivity there? Situation is not tough, not easy. People are having challenges in terms of having the tools to deliver what is expected. First, try understanding, have you provided tools to your team to provide the output which you are looking for? If not, address it. There is a old Gallup survey, Q12 survey, which actually captures this element in one of the questions, saying that, do I have a required tools to deliver my output? Go back to that basic now and understand what is the tool which is required to be given. And the tool can be anything. Tool can be access to the information, tool can be the IT infrastructure, tool can be the input from the work manuals. Check whether the tools have been provided or not. Eliminate the chances which will impact the person's productivity. And this can be done very easily by manager when they start engaging with the team and try understanding where is the bottleneck, where is the issue, and where is the challenges which is impacting the productivity. You have done this, still the productivity is not coming out. Please remember, you are not working with a robot, you are working with a human being. This is very similar to the response which I have given to the last question. Try understanding where is that emotional challenge which is not allowing the person to come out and work. If you are not equipped, go back and seek the professional help. So 3 approach. If you don't have the work, use this time gainfully to relook into the process and systems and do the improvement there. Encourage your team to go and build the capability in this period. 2, if you are getting the work, ensure that all the required tools are being provided to the team to deliver. And if the delivery is still not happening, try looking for the reason why this is not happening. And if you are not equipped, seek the professional help to address and help you in this period. So that's how I will like to respond to these 3 scenarios here, Shivani.
Thank you. So now this is the other side where I think it's an HR professional asking that under the work from home scenario, the HR metrics will need to change. So
yes,
how productive the employee has been, how many hours they have worked for, etc. So what is the best way to keep track of these metrics, and what kind of process change can be brought into account just so that there is a proper system in place? So if you could share your insights on that.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm challenging that status quo here. The metrics, some of the metrics which were there relevant till yesterday will not be relevant tomorrow. I'm sure none of us have engaged a team member in our team to check how many work hours or how many man hours one is putting on the work. And that's surely going to change now. Instead of input, the focus will also start looking at what is the value addition, what is one is doing, and what is the contribution one which is making here. Align the metrics from a very, very balanced approach, rather than restricting to 208 hours of man hours work during the month. 26 into 8 is what 208 mean here, versus what is the output which is coming in. Look into the value creation by each of the team member. Whatever the financial metrics which you are following, start connecting that back to the people's contribution there and people's input there. But first and foremost, sit down, be very clear what is that your team leader, your organization is expecting your team to deliver. Define that metrics very, very carefully. Share that with your team so that they know what is the expected out of them. You must ensure that the picture of success, what is there in your mind, also goes into the mind of the team member, so that they start changing the same metrics which you are talking about. Some of the metrics which will be very, very relevant here in this point of time is how much of the learning man hours I have put into develop my new skill. How much of the systems and the process improvement which I have done in this period? I'm not talking from the input perspective, I'm talking from the output perspective. If my organization is expecting to deliver something to their customer, how much of that has been committed and delivered during this period? You know, somewhere I talked about the anti-fragile organization in my conversation here. Here is the moment to start living that philosophy of the anti-fragile organization by bringing the thought process line. If this is the adversity, what is that? What are the elements which I'm going to do, which will make the real difference? And this is where the organization will start looking at metrics from this new change scenario perspective. If productivity continues to be a big challenge, look out for the gig workforce support here. Don't allow your productivity, overall organization's productivity, to get some impacted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. So we have another question. Again, there are two questions, and I'm going to try and club it. So one is that, you know, if the, like, how do we show empathy to our team members in these times? And if there is a checklist, any tangible processes where how we can assure them that they are, you know, they are safe and that we care for them, and, you know, that they are able to work with us in the long term. So any kind of
Absolutely.
checklist.
Absolutely, very important piece. Like culture, empathy is one word which is being used by people day in and day out. It has a far deeper meaning than the way we use it. The empathy starts from first the self-awareness. Do I know myself? What I bring to the table, the emotions which I am bringing in the conversation, and do I know what others are bringing to the table? What are the emotions others are bringing on the table? So this is the first step of building the self-awareness. Even in the same family, two kids getting similar kind of upbringing, 25 years down the line, 30 years down the line, they land up in a two very different pedestal. How does this happen? This happens the manner in which the self-awareness is being used by these two individuals. So the first step is you must understand yourself first, and then you also understand what your team members and their emotions are into these situations. That's the first thing. Second piece of empathy is you need to keep your thoughts open. You need to accept the reality that there could be more than one possible scenario. You should not get fixated that that's my way of looking at it and that's the only way of looking at it. If you want to actually create an empathy with the scenario, what does the empathy word mean? Putting yourself in someone else's shoes. This will only happen if you are first able to challenge your own status quo and saying, hey, I can be wrong, I'm looking in this manner, but probably there could be another manner of looking at it. Be open. Once you start working on it, then put yourself into the place from where the other team member is looking at this issue. Probably the team member have not got the complete brief around it. Probably the team members is looking at the things from a very different perspective. And this is where once your thought process is open, you put yourself in that shoes and start visualizing the problem. Then you do the third step. If you are there in this situation, how you will react and respond, and see how your team member is reacting and responding, and try understanding why there is a difference. Probably I would have responded in this manner. Why my team member is responding in a different manner? Create that understanding and appreciation. So that the fourth step of creating the empathy is you have a common shared understanding of looking at the problem in a similar way. So what I mentioned about the four things here: have the self-awareness. You must understand what is your emotional status and what is the status of the team members. Second, there could be more than one possible way of looking the same thing. Third, when you put yourself in your team member's shoes, how does the problem looks like? And fourth is how you will react, how you would have reacted and responded if you were there in the team member's piece. Bring all the four thoughts together, get into a conversation with your team member and try bridging this gap so that you are actually talking about the empathy in the real sense. Easier said than done. One need to practice it to become an expert in managing and understanding the empathy in a right manner.
Okay.
Yep.
The next question is that, do you think companies should opt for work from home even after the lockdown is lifted? Because through this method, a lot of companies have observed that the productivity has increased.
Whether your company is thinking about it or not, the world has started moving into it. You heard me talking about a few of the statistics and the few of the scenarios which we talked about it, where the people, the Gen Z wants to move, have the possibility of remote working. They feel less distractions there, and they don't want to spend time on the commuting to the workplace. So it's not about your company. The world is moving in that direction. Now the question is to you, whether you want to move in the direction in which world is moving, or you want to remain in a static where you are. So I guess the question, you don't have option. The world is moving in that direction, so better get ready and start aligning your culture to this new reality.
This is a little bit from the client side now, so that while we are trying to connect with our clients, what are the timelines that we should stick to? Because sticking to official timelines with work from home is a little bit challenging. So how do we manage that?
Oh, that's a great question, in fact, and somewhere I wanted to also touch upon this piece, but in the paucity of time, I couldn't bring that conversation here. Till yesterday, the work from home was being considered from the work-life balance perspective, right? I have certain obligation for which I am required to be at home because my spouse is traveling. I am doing a babysitting, or I have an elderly parents at home. I need to take care of them, and so on and so forth. But today's reality is different. So the work from home has a different meaning today than what it was yesterday from the work-life balance perspective. In today's scenario, I think the best way to deal with the work from home scenario is as if you are working in your regular work schedule. Follow the similar kind of schedule, the time at which you would have probably left for your work, the time at which you would have probably logged in when you were working at the office, and try also maintaining the similar habit of logging off from there. It is important. Otherwise, I have been talking to various people, and they are talking about having their lunch at 5 o'clock. You all have heard that unfortunate incident which has happened in the BMW. The gentleman was having a very erratic uh, work schedule and the lifestyle ever since the work from home thing started happening. And a couple of days before that incident had happened, he did mention about having lunch break at 5 o'clock or so. Don't do that. This is the moment where follow the similar schedule which you would have otherwise followed into the work schedule, and maintain the similar kind of what I do. I have a regular morning office hour. I tried coming back and occupying this workspace. At the same time, I take a tea break at 11 o'clock, the way I used to take in the normal office hour. I take a lunch break for half an hour or so, the similar time I used to do that in the office hour, and evening tea break at around 3:30. It helps to balance my life, because very often the work from home should not dilute the responsibility, because it will lead to not only the client challenge, but even the challenge in the house. Today everybody is doing multiple works. The kind of support which was coming to the house is not coming in now, so everyone has to extend help and support each other to keep the wheels moving. So my advice here would be that stick to the work schedule which you would have otherwise followed. Stick to the protocol of time and days of work the way you would have otherwise followed for following up with the client. Like I'm talking to you now, one side of my heart is saying, hey Alok, now we are very close to the long weekend. Tomorrow is the 1st May, which is a holiday, and followed by that on a Saturday and Sunday. Wow, this is the great moment. Now let's get ready for the long weekend which is going to come in. Don't allow this moment of joy and the moment of happiness get impacted by the work from home phenomena.
Okay, great. So we are actually out of time right now, Mr. Alok. We have quite a few questions even now. What I have done is that on your behalf, I have shared your email address to all the attendees, and I'm hoping that if they have any questions, they are free to reach out to you directly. But on behalf of everyone, I would personally like to thank you. If you have any last words that you would want to say before ending the session, please, if you can also share something.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed participating in the question answers because, as I was telling in the beginning, I'm also looking for this conversation to take something as a learning back from this conversation, and definitely some of the pointers and some of the questions has left me thinking, and I'm sure I will continue thinking around it. Uh, Before I conclude, I will sincerely urge and request you all to continue playing an important role what we are playing in the today's world. Don't allow this chain to continue for a longer duration. Be responsible. Take the leadership position in whatever we are doing. Break the chain and stay safe, stay healthy, and enjoy your long weekend, which is just knocking on your door. Thank you so much, and thank you, Shivani, for all the support in this call.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone. It was great for all of you all to be there till the end of the session.